Hey everybody, we are just about ready to get started. Just adjusting my screen so you can see everything. Let's see, there we go. All right, how's everybody doing today? Hopefully if you are on live or you are watching the recording, you are excited about digging in a little bit more today than where we have been up until now. And so I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you for joining today. Thank you for coming in. I am enjoying connecting with each and every one of you. I've got some messages from some of you talking about how valuable this has been. And so I'm just so thankful that I'm thankful for you because it takes people who are willing to invest in doing things with excellence. And that includes the relationships in your family. It takes people like you in order to make a difference, in order to change things in our lives and in the lives of those around us to reflect the love of Jesus in a more meaningful way and in a way that people find something that they actually want. So thank you for being here. Thank you for joining. And we're going to get started. All right. First of all, I have to say I'm in my my school clothes. I did tutoring today at school, and I call these my dust mop earrings. Does this look like, I feel like I could dust furniture with these? Anyway, they're fun, but as part of my 7th grade class today. So anyway, that's what we are doing. So yeah, we're going to get started. I want to make sure that everything's good to go. I think so. Yeah. All right. So we're on Facebook in the group and the recordings are all going, and we're going to get started with day 4. Day number 4. Okay. I want to make sure that this makes sense, how we're building on the things that we've already learned. So let's just recap real quick. Day 1, we did why you don't have the relationship you want already. We took a little bit of a big picture view of what does a relationship look like in the family from the perspective of what's working in business. And let's just apply that to family. So we decided we're in the relationship management business. And as a business, what does it look like to be failing and what does it look like to be succeeding? That's what we did day 1. Then day 2, we focused on the top 2 marketing secrets to build family success. And we looked at the importance of building know, like, and trust with others. Like that's what we want to know about others, and we want to trust them, but we also want to be positioning ourselves in such a way that others can know, like, and trust us, right? And then we decided that we needed a framework specifically around how we communicate with other people, building a framework for those conversations, some of those conversations that are a little bit difficult, right? So that was day 2. Day 3, which is yesterday, we talked all about the value ladder and how we are climbing the ladder in an effort to simultaneously take our family on a journey. It's a customer journey. We want to create awareness and get them to consider things, help them at a decision, help them learn how, make sure that we deliver what we commit to in an excellent way, and then create loyalty. And in order to do that, we recognized that we need to be climbing this value ladder, right? We need to start off with, there's just a lot of free opportunity to see things, and what that looks like is modeling behavior. And then there's an intro offer, like, hey, you could just try this little thing. You could just test this out. And then what's called the lead offer, which means like, hey, this is something that, like, we could do this together. you and me, we're both invested. And then there's that bullseye of now we have a solid relationship, and maybe something difficult comes up, but we've invested enough that we can weather those kinds of storms. And when we build that value ladder, then we get to, what did we say? We get to that loyalty where we're no longer like, we're not on a road or a journey to sell to our family. We're not on the journey to try to talk them into our ideas anymore. They're already sold. They already know they want what we're offering. And now they actually are advocating for us in the same ways. They're sharing it with other people. They're coming back and spitting out the same message that we gave them. They're spitting it back to us. And that is the beauty of what I call accountability in relationship, where the scriptural concept of iron sharpens iron, and we're both growing together. And that's the ultimate experience in relationship, right? Where we feel like every time I'm around this person, I feel like they serve me and I grow. And the other person is also saying, every time I'm around that person, I feel like they serve me and I grow. And so when we have that kind of collaboration, the possibilities for just joy in relationship is amazing. It's amazing. So that's we've done all this work, right? All this work on learning some of these things. And tonight, what I want to talk to you about relates to when you start building value, especially on those first two tiers, that free offer and the intro offer, then a lot of times it's unfamiliar and we aren't really sure how to do this well. And so there's a few things that we try to do in order, kind of like protection, right? It's uncomfortable. We come up with some terrible ideas, honestly. And so tonight, the whole point is I want to show you the terrible ideas so that you can avoid them. And we're going to have a little fun with it. I've got some fun little titles to go with this. I think it'll help you remember them so that you can like, oh, I see myself doing that. I'm going to back up, right? So I've got so much good stuff for you tonight. We've got that. And then I'm going to talk about we've got these 3 ways and then 6 questions that we should be looking for ways to answer these 6 questions without being asked. Okay. So hopefully you've got your worksheet. All right. And then if we have time, I have a little bonus conversation at the end that I just want to let you know about. So we are ready to get started. Okay, so we're already started. What am I talking about? Oh, by the way, of all the days, this is the day that if I'm going to step on toes, it's going to happen today. So I'm just first asking you some permission. Is it okay if I step on your toes a little bit? Is it okay if we, hit a little close to home on this one? All right. And I promise you, these are things that I work on myself. I fall into these categories myself. We all do. We all are human. We all make mistakes. And so, but this is also how we grow. When we see that reflection, we're like, ooh, ouch, that hurts. That's the place where we have an opportunity to grow. And so I'm just asking your permission to, be prepared. Might get a little close to home today. All right. So 3 ways not to show up when you are trying to add value to other people. So I need my red marker. You don't want to show up as the pickup liner. The pickup liner. Okay. Like the date, he's like the person trying to get a date and they come up with the really dumb, humorous, or they think it's humor, but it's like puns, and they're trying to come up with a way of like, hey, go out with me. Hey, I think you're pretty. Hey, come on, let's go do something together. Don't you know, like, if you've ever heard people actually do this, they come across as what? A little bit fake, right? They come across as a little bit shallow. I think of it as they're trying to be smart. Yeah. They're trying to be smart or slick, but it's so obvious, isn't it, that it's not smart, it's not slick. It's just they're trying to protect themselves with some humor. And what ends up happening is they end up hiding who they really are, behind trying to be witty, trying to have that perfect thing that gets you. The idea behind it really is, I'm trying to come up with if I could come up with the perfect thing to say that minimizes the risk to me, isn't it? That's what they're trying to do, with the belief that there is a particular thing I could say that will make you want to say yes, instead of, no, I'm just going to be me and hold you as able to decide. So the motive behind it is this idea of like, I want to look good. And as a result, I'm kind of protecting myself. I want to look good when I'm doing this, and I want to protect myself. As a result, the pickup liner puts very little vulnerable, real effort behind what they're trying to do, and looks at it more like, I don't need to use 25 words if 5 will do. Right? What's the least amount of effort that I can put forward and still get the results? That's what's going on. The focus on it becomes on me and my ability to do it well as the pickup liner. Like, I'm going to get this right the first time. In relationships, what this looks like is depending on little quips and quotes to kind of get us through conversations. If you've ever been around this person that just has the repetitive little phrases that they use in particular situations, that's kind of like a pickup liner scenario. They've boiled it down to, I can use these words and minimize risk, and still there's some sort of belief that there's still connection in that moment, but it doesn't really end up coming across that way. It ends up feeling like they aren't being genuine, or they are a little bit like hesitant in the relationship. It can look like in families that people are hiding behind their humor. Like, you can't actually have a serious conversation with them because they hide behind being funny. Which we could go into this a whole nother day about how people use humor as a way to shield from vulnerability. That's a huge thing that people do. But we're not talking about all that today and how that works. But the trouble is, real relationship doesn't grow there. That's not where it grows. It doesn't grow here. This is like a one-liner, and most of the time it's a one-liner and you go on your way, because it doesn't work. So you want to be aware if the value you're putting out is just like, I just want to try this little bitty thing. We'll see, I found the perfect little thing that's kind of cute, and I'm going to try it and see if it works, right? There's not a lot of investment. So be aware of that tendency to hold back and to risk very little for fear that you might get hurt in the process. All right. Second one is the Playa. The Playa. And I'm just going to be real and say that's the one I struggle with most as a parent. This is where I land sometimes. The player, they want something, don't they? They're like, I'm going to play the game until I get what I want. And then, depending on what I want after that, I may or may not keep playing the game, right? So they can make you feel amazing 1 second and really small another second, can't they, in a relationship? like a dating relationship, the player is all about themselves. They look good, they act cool, they put a high status on what they're doing, but the motive is all around feeling good. They want to feel good. And so looking good helps them feel good. Having other people perceive them as doing it correctly makes them feel good. In fact, sometimes sharing how much they're devoted to you feels good. But also when they're not getting anything out of it, rejecting you feels good. Like, yeah, that's not about me anymore. And so what feels good is to not bother with you anymore. So in relationships in a family, not the dating world, but in the relationship in the family, that looks like, well, if I'm the player in the relationship, right, I might say, well, he doesn't care, so I'm not doing this anymore. That's a player attitude. You know what? He didn't want to work on this. I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to work on it if he doesn't want to work on it. I'm just going to do my thing. No big deal. While often the player states that they're all in, when things get rocky, they don't live up to their all in. The statement that they're all in is just as much a part of the persona of a player as much as they're done when it's hard. So we want to be aware, how often are we adding value, serving others from the place of an expectation that we're going to get something out of it. And when we get disappointed or discouraged, it's a great place to sort of check in and say, hey, am I like, did I just do that because I want something from them? I wonder. So the player. All right, number 3. I wonder if you can guess what my number 3 date type is. It is the nice guy. The nice guy. Now, don't get me wrong, guys and girls can both do this. And actually, I see lots of women do it in relationships, whether it's marriage or parenting or, oh my goodness, it shows up so much in parenting and a lot of women. So just because I say the nice guy doesn't mean I'm just talking to the men here. All right. I coach primarily women anyway. You should just assume that I'm talking to women sometimes. Okay, so the nice guy personality in the date, what does that look like? So they seem super nice and genuinely are a lot of the times. They might be generous and let you have it the way they want, the way you want it. Like, we're going to go to the restaurant you want to go to, and we'll go out and do this, or whatever you want, honey, kind of an attitude. But then they also don't make decisions, and they kind of procrastinate about commitments, and they're not ever really willing to play the bad guy in any situation or make a tough call. Like, that's all on you because they're busy being the nice guy. Like, this is who I am. And it won't be like, no, I'm not doing that. It's like, let me think about it. Okay, well, I just want to think about it a little bit longer. Well, I mean, we could do it that way, or whatever you want to do. And it doesn't mean that they often don't have a good conversations with people, and sometimes they can be really unaware of what's actually going on around them. What's actually going on is a motive to be in control. When they're being nice and indecisive, what that's doing, and it's trying to make sure that they don't overly risk their emotion. They hold back because they're not sure how much it's going to take. And so they're wanting to make sure that they stay in control. And so it's kind of like I'm hedging my bets, so to speak. So they hold back from emotion, which protects them and keeps them in control. They don't want to feel out of control. So they minimize any areas that they need to care. I'm going to care about less to minimize my emotional output, the possibility that I could lose control in a situation. They also minimize the areas where they fight, but they also minimize the areas that they're willing to go into conflict, even to stand up for other people. And that can be really frustrating. So in a family situation, what that looks like is this individual can be very steady and dependable for a lot of things. They often come across as very kind and easygoing to other people. But sometimes there's also this belief in the family that because I do all these nice things, you owe me. Does that make sense? And they're not going to, like the player, they're not going to be like, give me what I want or I'm out of here. They're going to be like, I'm nice. And so kind of like these expectations, and when they aren't met, sometimes it's a little bit passive aggressive how they communicate that it's your turn, right? They're just a little bit like, excuse me, did you notice that I'm being kind to you? Kind of an attitude around it. And so sometimes there can also be in the situation with the nice person, the overly nice person. I don't mean that don't be kind to your family, you know that. But there can also be a place of they're a little bit insecure in some sort of area of their life. And so they especially hedge that area. And because of that, they have certain beliefs that color everything that they say and do, because they're trying to protect around some particular insecurity. Yeah. The other thing that I've noticed about this person is they'll say that they're doing something for you, but it really ends up being about them. Let me explain. Like, have you ever been around a person who's super sweet, super nice, very generous, but their idea of spending time with you is talking about themselves the entire time? And you get done and you think, I don't think I actually said they, excuse me, they didn't actually ask me about myself at all. Like, I told them nothing about my life. I wonder if they even actually cared. Excuse me. So there can be this very self-absorbed space. You guys, excuse me just a second. I'm going to have to go get some water. I'll be right back. Okay. I apologize. All right. So are these making sense? You get this? Like, do you see how these are all really ulterior motives, right? And they all go back to either looking good or feeling good or being right, being in control. And those motives in that area can eat you alive. All right. And in fact, if you get into an unexpected conflict, I guarantee you one of those 4 things that I just said, looking good, feeling good, being right, being in control, one of those is at play with how you're showing up. You might be showing up as the pickup guy that wants to look good, or the player that wants to feel good, or the nice guy that wants to be in control. So it's a great little checkup to see how your value is doing. And the fact of the matter is, like I said here, You are investing in a long-term relationship with a wise adult. That is true whether the people that you're interacting with are adults or not. You're not investing in a long-term relationship with a child, with an obedient child, with a thoughtful child, they're only a child for the first 15 years of their life. I get some people just don't seem to grow up, right? So let's give them 25. That's still, like, if they live to be 75, that's only a third of their life. So we're not doing all this work just for the first third or the first quarter of somebody's life. This is a long-term goal with a wise adult. That's who they're becoming. And so we want to just go ahead and start treating them like they're a wise adult. Like I'm going to act like and honor you as someone who can make wise decisions and someone who can take control of their life. Okay, that makes sense. The idea here is, as we model this, we also want to make sure that, as we model this, we're also modeling discipleship. We're modeling this idea of what relationship looks like, because our calling, as it says in Matthew 28, go into all the world and preach the gospel, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I've commanded you, and lo, I am with you always, even into the end of the age. This idea that as believers, if you are a believer and you have accepted Jesus as your Lord and Savior, and you've chosen to follow him and dedicated your life, that one of his most clear directions is, we are not only called to be his disciple, but we're called to make disciples. And so modeling this behavior isn't just about getting along in relationships. It's not just about having less fights and arguments. It's about discipling others. It's about discipling the people around you, the people in your family, the people that are watching you, and modeling that behavior so that that's what they want in a joyful way. So they're like, oh my goodness, I want my family to look like that. I want the relationship that I have to look like that. That's the goal. Okay. So the second half of the sheet, we'll talk about these 6 questions. We'll make sure it's all the way up. All right, we've got them all. Good. Okay. So 6 questions. This authentic communication that we're choosing to have, right? We're not going to be the pickup line. We're not going to be the player. We're not going to be the nice guy. We're going to have this authentic communication and connection. And that includes this value. So we want to look at, what does that value actually look like that we need to be incorporating? And it's all based on curiosity. We want to give them little bits of information so that they're like, oh, wait, there's more. There's more that I could know about this, and I'm interested. It piques their curiosity, and then they go ahead and ask. Especially as parents to kids, our kids don't even know we were kids. If they sit there and think about it for a second, they're like, oh yeah, I guess somehow she was born. But they don't think about this idea that, like, there was a day I learned to walk. My kids are not like, there were days when mom had a hard breakup as a teenager, because they've only experienced me as this. So the thing is that they don't know that we had specific instances in childhood that were meaningful to us. And so they don't ask. But I guarantee you that they are often interested. They don't know to ask the questions, but they're often interested. And it's a way to add value that's free at no cost to them. You're not sitting there telling them this is what they need to do. You can share a story from your life about a lesson that you learned. And it's like that free value, right? It's like I'm sharing information, but not from a pressure like you have to invest any kind of effort in this at all. I'm just sharing like an interesting story. I was so sad when I mean, I'm thankful that I found out, but my great Aunt Bertha lived in my town, and she lived alone. She never got married. She was a teacher for all her life. She was born in 1903, and she lived until she was 103, I think it was. Anyway, super old. And or 102, I don't remember. I lost count. You lose count after that many years. Anyway, when she was in her late 80s, I think it was, I started realizing that I could go over and visit with her. And at first it was like my mom just wanted me to go visit because old person, go spend time with them, go help them, that kind of thing. But I learned that I knew she had really good recipes, and she had given me some of them. I couldn't make them. Like they didn't come out the way that she did them. And so I started going to learn how she made her recipes because I wanted to understand how she cooked. When I got over there, I realized, you know what? She's actually doing these different. And so I was like, this is interesting. I want to know what she does differently on this one too. And so I went over there a little bit more often, and gradually, the more I got to know her, the more I started realizing like this woman had a life. That sounds like really ridiculous, but in my young mind, it hadn't occurred to me that she had ever had a boyfriend, or she was just Aunt Bertha. She's been old as long as I've been alive. And her whole life is she knows how to make ketchup and candy and cake. That's who she is. I didn't even know to ask. So I was a little nervous, but I finally got up the courage to ask her, like, how come you never got married? Which is a really bold question to ask. You're like, I'm not sure if, like, are they going to be okay if I talk about that? I know my kids have asked me stuff before, and then later come and told me, like, I was a little nervous to ask, like, is that an okay question to ask? Like, of course, but they don't even know. They don't even know if they're stepping into something painful or something easy. So anyway, I asked her one time, she was a quippy little woman. And I said, so how come you never got married? She's like, well, never met anybody I wanted to put up with for the rest of my life. And I was like, okay. She liked the way life was. And I actually think there was a serious heartbreak back there that she never quite got over for a long, long time, and just didn't ever find anybody else. That she's like, I didn't want to tolerate anything else. So I thought it was funny, but there was value there that she was able to contribute to me. And I look back now and I think, oh man, I wish I had known to ask more questions. She would have told me so many things. And that's the way we are with others. I think a lot of times there's a lot of things that we're willing to tell people, but they don't know to ask. And we keep waiting for somebody to ask. And so the stories don't get told because they don't know to ask, and we don't just volunteer the information. So that's why we are volunteering some information. That's the key. Ready? The first one is, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? this might sound pretty basic. These are all going to sound pretty basic. But the truth is, I'm not talking about your name and age and gender. I'm talking about, do the people around you know what gets you excited? Do you know what gets them excited? Do they know what your dreams are, or like what longings you have? Have you shared that with anybody? Do you find out what theirs are? Like, do you know who each other are? Do you know each other's weaknesses? And don't wait for them to necessarily, I'll share mine if you share yours. No, just go tell them, like, hey, I just like, can I just tell you a few things about me that I think might be things I'd like to share? And tell them. Or if that feels weird, just go ask them about themselves. Okay, you can do it the other way, but it doesn't have to be like fair. Okay, it doesn't have to be fair. Does your spouse know what you feel shame around? That's another one under the who are you? Or do you know what makes them feel really embarrassed? It's really helpful to know that, so that you don't, like, it is super disrespectful feeling to have somebody tease you about something that you feel shame around. I have a digestive issue in my stomach, and I've had it for quite a while. And as a result, it causes a lot of gas sometimes in very unexpected times. And it would be very easy for Brandon to tease me about that. And but it's embarrassing to me. It's embarrassing. It's something that I find shame around, like just between the two of us, if we're headed to bed and I'm really gassy, like, I'm embarrassed by it. And so he could come in and make a big deal about it and be teasing and stuff, and it would just crush me. Like, it would make me sad. And he knows what those places are that are still, like, God's still working those areas out in my life. And so he's sensitive to them. He knows that it matters to me, and he honors it. So those are helpful things to know about another person. The second one is, where do you come from? Now, these all come from, where do you come from? These are all key questions that companies answer for their customers before they're asked. They might put them on their website. They might send them in emails to them like, hey, this is who I am. Hey, this is how we got to where we are. These are all questions that come from important information to share with others, to be known by each other. Remember, we talked about building that know, like, and trust. This is a way to help build the know piece of that and add value. So, where do you come from? We talked a little bit about that with my Aunt Bertha, about how did your growing up years shape you, or does your family even know where you were born and how you were raised? Do they know? Have you ever told them stories about hard things you went through, or maybe joyful things you went through, or sad ones? It's amazing how many married couples actually don't know some of these stories. And I always think it's fun when Brandon and I are talking, or something will spark a memory of his, and he'll pull out a story that I've never heard before. We've been married for 21 years, and there's the feeling that I've heard all the stories by now, and I've definitely heard a lot of them. But even now, every once in a while, he'll pull out a story that I've never heard before. And I think, another place where I can know him more deeply, more on a more intimate level, just another little facet about him. And that's precious. Your family will value that. So, where do you come from? What about your parents? Like, do they know any of the history of your family? Those kinds of things too. All right. What do you do? What do you do? I find this one particularly helpful. Like, yes, I'm talking about your job or your hobbies or things like that. But this idea of knowing what each other does is helpful because you then have context to know how hard their day was, or whether or not they're particularly struggling with something, or they walk in and you're aware enough of the details around what they do to know what they need in that moment. It brings an ability to serve the other person if they know what you do and you know what they do. Okay. I'm thinking about things like, okay, I'm going to tell him Brandon. Brandon's an accountant, my husband, Brandon. And one of his favorite things that he gets all excited about is, on like an Excel spreadsheet, when you want to automate some process. And so you put a little formula up in there, and then it like you can punch in a number and it automatically calculates the total of something or whatever. So he gets really excited when he is able to write new formulas that do new things that he's never been able, like he's never figured out a formula for that process before. So, and it's way beyond like add these things in this column together automatically. Like I know how to do that. I know how to do those things. But when he pulls these things together and he gets excited, if I didn't know that that was something that was like deeply something that he is passionate about, I could really make light of it. Right. And so knowing what he does and what he gets excited about helps me to celebrate with him. It helps me to enjoy him more. And it helps him to enjoy me when he knows what I do. So sometimes he's not a person that asks me about my business. He's not a person that he doesn't usually come up and say, hey, tell me what new thing you're learning. Do you know that he has no idea any of the content that I'm talking to you at all about this week? And he doesn't normally volunteer, like he doesn't ask about it. But it's not because he doesn't want to know. Sometimes he's just unaware that of an like I would like to share it with him. And so it doesn't occur to him to ask the question. And so I just share it anyway. What do you do? Hey, can I tell you about this? I'd like to tell you about this thing that I'm doing tonight that I think is really cool. He's willing to listen, and it usually comes up later, like he'll talk about it or he'll reference it, or it builds our relationship. Don't wait to be asked, just tell him, volunteer information. It's okay. So that can include hobbies. I think I said that. All right, the next one is how do you do it? How do you do it? Okay, so for a company, like a business, because we've been talking all week about how to take business concepts and apply them to being in the relationship management business, right? So a business is going to explain, well, the way we sell swimming pools is we come out and we measure your pool, and then we give you an estimate, and you come into the shop and you pick out the pieces that you want, and then we schedule a time to come put it in your yard, right? So that would be how you do it. What we're looking for here in the family is, does your family know what kind of services you offer them? Do they know what you can help with? Like maybe it's part of your job or a skill or a hobby that you like, but do you share what you know with other people? For instance, when I first got married, I did a lot of sewing. And so my younger kids were around me while I was using the sewing machine. But then we got a lot of kids, and then the sewing machine pretty much sits there and doesn't get used. Just I'm doing other things, right? I'm doing this with you instead of sewing things, which I like this better. But but I do know how to sew, and I don't just know how to sew. I know how to sew really well, but my kids don't know that. And so they end up with issues with some of their things, and they don't know what to do about it. They don't even know to ask, can you fix this? So one time, for instance, recently, my daughter, who got a job and she's got masks, but she's got a really small face and she's required to wear the company masks. And they like when she puts them on, they're like all up in her eyes, and she can't even like, they're so far around that the elastic, I mean, it's just a mess. So she's like trying to figure out what to do. And I was like, I can take it apart and alter it and just like stitch it back together. She was like, you can? And I did. I took the thing apart, I restitched it, I put it back together. It was just exactly the same, except smaller. And she's like, this is amazing. I had no idea you could do this. And off she went to work, and people were like, how did you get a smaller mask? And she's like, my mom. Right? But she didn't even know that that was a skill I had. So she didn't know to ask the question. So she's over there suffering with something because she doesn't even know. It's important that we share what we know. And that part of that comes through stories. It comes through like, hey, I did this when the kids were little. I made a tailored slipcover for the couch and turned the salmon couch into a blue plaid couch. And we had it for a long time, and it was interesting. And then they're like, oh, cool. But what happens is they tuck that story away and like, mom knows how to sew, right? So how do you do it? I will say that for some of these, I mentioned the other night that one of our best dinner time fun things is Mad Libs. Another dinner time fun thing that we do is best thing and worst thing. And this is a subtle way of getting some of this information and adding value into people's lives. Because if you do best thing and worst thing enough, you'll start to see consistent, like these things make them feel good. These things are more difficult for them. And so you start to learn each other a little bit more deeply. Best thing and worst thing is like when we all sit around the table and everybody gets a turn to say, what was one of the best things about the day and what was one of the worst things about the day. It doesn't take long. It's not a big deal, but it's really valuable. And I will say sometimes, even if my husband and I are just sitting there, the two of us, sometimes sometimes I'll ask the question then, hey, what was the best thing about your day? It's better than, this is a whole nother thing, but so I'm not going to go into it deep, but it's better than, how was your day? Good. Everything go okay? Yep. How was your day? Terrible. Oh, I'm sorry. Anything I can do? Nope. What was one of the best things about your day, or what was one of the worst things about your day? Usually creates conversation. There are some faithful people who are determined to still give short answers. But I will continue trying. I've got some kids that like the little short answers. My best thing about the day is when I ate dinner. My worst thing about the day is when I had to get out of bed. Okay, funny guy. So, best thing, worst thing. That can draw some of these out. Next is, who do you do it for? So remember I said, like, tell them what you do, like how you do it, what you do. Who you do it for is also important for people to know and you to voluntarily share. Who you do it for. Now, in a business, this is like, the party rental place, they rent out their things for birthday parties, for celebrations, for weddings, for catering, for school events. And so what they do is they list all these different possibilities to help sort of jog your mind, like, oh, I have a birthday party coming up, I could use them for that. That's the who you do it for in the business. But for your kids or for your spouse or things like that, like, are you willing to do any of these things for them or for their friends or for relatives? Like, that needs to be clear. And it's worth volunteering. Especially if you're willing to help your son's friend, you need to tell your son that you're willing to help their friend. Don't wait for them to ask. They may not necessarily come and ask. Are you willing to invite your daughter's buddy over to spend the night? Then you got to tell her, not necessarily wait for her to ask. If it comes to mind that you're willing to fix Aunt Lucy's car, just go ahead and volunteer that information. That's what it looks like to add value, right? Remember, we're being vulnerable without expecting something in return. We're adding value, we're contributing and building into the relationship, not necessarily with the expectation of getting something out of it. So don't wait for them to ask, just share it. And then last is voluntarily answer the question, can you do it for me? Can you do it for me? This is kind of similar to this one, but it's more of a like, I can help you with that if you would like. I'm willing to go. I'm happy to share. I'd love to bless you. It reminds me a little bit of, I've got 2 kids that work for Chick-fil-A right now, and their response of, it would be my pleasure. Like, so somebody says, thank you. And they say, my pleasure. And that's like, they're required at work to say that. But what happens is it comes out at home too, where they will say it. And it just reminds me, like, they're offering to do things a lot of times, and having a nice attitude about it. So sometimes they're asked, but then other times, I told somebody the other day who wasn't expecting it, and they're like, they needed something, and I was like, it would be my pleasure to help you do. And they were like, what are you talking about? It'd be your pleasure. I'm the one that needs something. You're having to give it to me. I'm like, yeah, because I, like, part of my job on this earth is to love others well and glorify God. And part of that is like serving others. Like, I have the opportunity to serve Jesus. And so it is my honor, my pleasure, my honor to serve you. And like, I don't even, there's a stranger and they just play, like, I got dubbed the crazy lady. She's like, I don't know about you. So, can you do it for me? Answer that question. So this is vulnerability without expecting anything in return. That's what this looks like. Vulnerability without expecting any return. I want to encourage you that sometimes families can be harsh when you start getting vulnerable. And so I encourage you to look at, like, this is not on your notes, but be aware how much you tease each other about things that actually matter. A lot of times people will say, no, it's fine. You can tease me. It's not a big deal. But teasing is funny because there's usually some element of truth in what you're saying. And when we tease each other, we don't want to show that it stings, or we might have built up a protection around ourselves so that it won't sting as much because we're used to it. But I just want to encourage you to consider that every time teasing happens around things that are close to our identity, that it does prick. It either pricks or they've already got so much armor up that that actually in order to build a relationship, you have to kind of open that armor up in order to be able to experience more authentic relationship. So just be the teasing piece. There's so many things I can't tell you this week. So just be aware of that. Okay. Now that we've kind of covered this stuff, I want to talk a little bit about a path forward, because I'm giving you so much stuff. I'm giving you so many things that can make a difference, that do make a difference. But when you start getting intimate and vulnerable around things, it can get messy really fast, right? It can get super messy. And so I'd like to ask your permission, if you're all right, if I share with you one of the options that I have as a life coach, something that's available if you're interested, in order to take this material and apply it successfully. Is that okay with you if I share some of that stuff? Okay. I've got at least one yes, so I'm going to go with that. So I want to share this opportunity that's coming up and how it benefits you, because the honest truth is the relationships that we're working on, there's no stagnant spot in the relationship. We're either growing closer to people or further away from them. There's no like staying in one place. We're building bridges or we're blocking the flow, like blocking the road of connection. So we always have a trajectory pointed one way or another. And it's either pointed in a way of growth or it's pointed in a way of like moving towards cold and distance and things like that. So that's always there. And I want to help you be able to take step forward and step forward and step forward. So what I did is I created this program called Relationship Renovations. So the path forward that I'd like to propose to you here is it's time for a relationship renovation. So I think of this family makeover a little bit like a regular makeover. Like, I don't know, the women on here, if you've ever actually like gone and had your makeup done, you're like, oh my goodness, like they've made my face look amazing. And I love this. And I now know that this is possible. And then you get home and you're like, wait, I don't know. She told me how to put this makeup on, but okay, I think I can do this. And so you start trying to put it on and stuff. And it's like, yeah, I definitely cannot do this the same way they do. And then it's like, okay, I got all this makeup and now I don't know how to apply it correctly. I know it's possible, but it's not working. And you really wish that the person that had put it on to begin with was there in your house, helping you put it on every day so that it stays that way, right? So that's what this relationship renovations program is all about. It's all about, sticking with you through this stuff as you navigate it so that you can have the success, you can like maintain that makeover, if you will, that you're looking for. And some of that looks like, yeah, this part, it's not about just putting makeup on it. It's like, we got to take that off and we've got to, have you ever had people like, yeah, makeup isn't the thing, that what you need is you need to actually like, let's back up and fix your skin a little bit. Like you got splotchy skin. If we can get that fixed, then the makeup is just going to be like a bonus. Does that make sense? Okay. So I want to show you what, all the ways that this program helps with the things that we've been talking about. Okay. And I'm going to just do it. I'm going to go really fast, but I want you to hear about it. So on day one, I just want to give you a little bullet points here. On day one, we talked about why you don't have the relationship you want to have. Relationship renovations helps us create that vision. It gives you a way more detailed evaluation tool to find out the things specifically that you need to work on. We go through processes that are dependable and get lots of good results in your relationships. And we have strategic techniques to help you drastically improve the communication using some of the framework techniques, but we go further, we take those frameworks further, and we actually practice them. And there's even more very specific ways of making that stuff work in communication. Day 2, the building your know, like, and trust factor and building the frameworks. So we start with you. We make sure that we get your thoughts in alignment so that you can be really high value, so that you can be known for your excellence, and make sure that things are, not getting in the way there. We build specific strategies around helping you feel heard and getting along with others so that they really feel heard. There's particular techniques that we go through. We learn to spot what's really going on in a conversation and address the things that people are not saying, so that they really feel truly loved and seen and acknowledged, and we feel successful. Today the frameworks that I referenced, we actually learned 3 different frameworks in relationship renovations that specifically address different points of communication having to do with the spirit and the soul and the body, so that you're communicating with the whole person. Day 3, we talked about climbing the ladder of relationship success. And so we learn in relationship renovations a trick that you can implement to encourage people when you don't feel like saying anything nice to them. If you don't know anything nice, this solves that. We discover the subtle art of reinforcing who they are and their purpose. And there's some ways that we kind of sneak this into life so that it's not like overt, it's more covert operations. And so that's really helpful. We learn a targeted strategy for how to turn any weakness that you see in somebody else into a strength. And so so you can flip it around in a moment. We learn how to stay focused on relationship building in spite of distractions, and how to recognize those distractions. Like, wait a minute, this isn't the actual relationship that I'm working on. This is something trying to take me down. And we learn how to eliminate those really quickly. The things that we talked today, the 3 ways not to show up in relationship renovations, we learned the 3 ways to show up, and they directly address people's longing for hope and peace and joy. And so it ends up having this really meaningful impact on their lives. There's also, for ways to share this, we offer 60 mini devotionals for families to work through things together and start talking about some of these things so that you can have conversations. Or even if you're not having a conversation, you can use it individually, and then just like, hey, I was reading this today and I'd love to share what I found out about this, and I'd love to tell you what I wrote down. And then there's some things we're going to be talking about tomorrow that we haven't even gotten to yet, the top 5 biggest topics to cover to eliminate distance from other people. And so the relationship renovations helps us count the cost of investing in the relationship and helps you stay grounded during times of difficulty. It also is going to help you address problems very effectively and practice and model them. We practice together. There's just so many good things that it's like a lab, right? It's like you get the material and then you can practice in a lab, right? That's what we want to do, so that the first time that you try a new skill isn't on somebody who has no clue what you're doing and you're still trying to get it right. So we learn the art of gaining honest feedback and not how to let it take us down when it's a little bit hard to hear. Oh my goodness, there's just so many things. All right. That's just that's just how we address just the things that I've been talking about this week. Like, do you get, like, I have been cramming stuff in. I want to give you as much as I possibly can this week, and it doesn't even scrape the surface of what's available. That's what I'm trying to tell. People are like, I don't really need a coach. I'm like, oh, you just don't even understand how much is available here. So let me show you what's actually included in the program. I've got my board over here. Just a second. All right. Wonder if this thing's gonna fit on here. Okay, so the relationship renovations program, these are just the things that come with the program. So there's 12 training modules that have a value of about $15,000 in them. They're all recorded for you. You get to keep them forever. You can go back and rewatch them. There's worksheets to go along with this and journaling exercises so that you can really dig deep into what's going on and also track how you're doing. A value of $950. There's the complete training checklist. When I've done this program before, people are like, there's so many pieces. I'm not sure if I'm catching them all. And I don't know which things I've done and which things I'm not. And so we've created this whole thing to make sure that you stay on track and that you get everything that you were supposed to get, a value of $1,500. There's the praise plan template. It is amazing for how to tell somebody something nice when you don't have anything nice to say. We've got it all figured out. You just plug in the information in there, and basically it will help you get set up with, you will never have to come up with something nice to say again. You will always have things available. A value of $1,500. There's the identity template where we wanted to make it easy for you to remember who you are and help other people, empower other people to remember who they are, identify who they are in Christ. And so this is just a very simple method for you to be able to be reminded of that on a regular basis. We have our productive fussing sequence. So if you've ever wanted to figure out, how can I, as an adult, fuss about something and it be good for me, then this is that sequence. And this is part of the program, a value of $4,000. I cannot tell you how much this has helped me. It's helped clients. It has changed people's lives. Like, this is undervalued. I'm not even kidding. The Power Tools Kit, which is basically like, you're going to learn that it's important to ask certain questions as you go through this program, but it's a little bit hard to remember the questions. And so we've got kind of a cheat sheet way of you being able to know what those questions are and access them really quickly, as well as if you hang it in a place where other people can see it, then they start learning to ask the questions too. And so it's just a really powerful tool. Value of $3,000. Let me pull this up so you can see the bottom. Okay, so then we have our daily proclamations. The last time we went through relationship renovations, the feedback was that it was really hard to keep these positive things going around in their head. And so what I've created is something that will help you every single day. So you get a new proclamation that is straight from scripture on who God's calling you to be and what you're capable of every single day for the whole time of the program, a value of $2,000. And then there's the roundup that if you want to be able to record them or you want to say it, it's all done for you. And you can see them all at once. And that's a value of $950. Plus our private Facebook group so that you can connect with these people. You don't have to go dig out the people that are already doing this, that are doing this kind of work and are living this life. And I promise you, when you start going into stuff like this, the people out there that are living this kind of abundant, joyful, vibrant life, they're hard to find, aren't they? We're going to put them in a group for you so you get to know them. Value of $1,500. Okay, so the total value here of the parts of this program are $31,900. Okay. But there are bonuses. Every single week when we start, we're going to be doing weekly group coaching calls so that you can troubleshoot every single thing that is not working, and we can get real-time help for it. There's a value of $10,000. Because we're not actually starting the official program until the beginning of January, I threw in my holiday hacks, which is just kind of a strategic, intensive 5-video course to help you get your holidays set up and all the details around that all kind of nailed down, so that then you have time to think about the relationships. You're not thinking about turkey, you're thinking about the people that you love. And that has been really helpful for a number of people for a couple of years now, and the value is $5,000. Then I'm also throwing in the Think Truth program. This is a whole other 3-month program on building biblical mindset for families. And I've just been running it at my church recently. It will help somebody who is 87, and it will help somebody who is 7. Okay. It's got stuff in there we wanted to make it family friendly, as broad of an application as we possibly could. And so there's discussion questions, there's journaling opportunities, there's daily devotionals, there's coloring pages for every single day, for 12 weeks. And you can go through the course, or you can pick and choose and use the things that you feel like are most relevant. So the value of $7,500. There's the 100 power questions for when you feel stuck. This is a done for you. I don't know how to get myself out of this spot where I'm feeling discouraged. And you can go down there and just that's what I need to work on. You pick it up, pull it out, use it, done. Bam. Value of $1,500. And then we have our live 2-day retreat that I'm going to be running in April. I think it's April 8th through the 9th. Don't quote me on that because I don't have it in front of me, but I think that's the weekend. A value of $8,000. So the total of the bonuses is the value is $32,000. But feedback from last time, people said, really wish I had somebody going, if somebody else was in my family doing this with me, it would be so much more valuable. And so there is an optional bonus BOGO package. This is a buy one, get one free package. So you can sign up, and someone else you can also sign up someone else in your family to take this with you. Okay. So and they get everything you get. Value of $15,000. This is not even adding all of this other stuff, which brings all of our bonuses to the value of $47,000. Everything on the first page, $31,900. So that's a total value of $78,900. And your cost is $5,000. That's not even the value of the amazing 2-day retreat that we're running, all about reframing your perspective. And oh my goodness, I've run this before, and just so much transformation. You just can't even, oh my goodness, it's so great. All right. Whew. All right. So your cost only $5,000. So you get all this stuff. You can't see the top or the bottom of my thing here, but we're not starting until January. And I was like, okay, how can I help you guys between now and January? If you're ready to get started right now, how can I help you get started? And for anybody who's signing up after, from this challenge, or I am going to run this challenge again in December, anybody who signs up then, from this challenge, there's going to be 2 early bird sessions. So we're doing one of them this coming Tuesday, and then we'll do one of them there's a Tuesday in December that we'll also be doing. So if people sign up from the December challenge, then they'll get the early bird session. So we're just at like, I don't know, what's the value of that? We just add that on. Yeah, only $5,000. Total value again, $78,900, and your price is $5,000. I can tell you this. I can tell you that like I have a mentor, I have a coach, and I ran these numbers through her, and she felt like I was underpriced. And I'm pretty sure she did not see the fact that I was offering this to 2 people, not just one. So I'm certain that she's going to be like, wait, I didn't even see that you let them sign 2 people up for this price. What are you doing? Because, she's trying to help me make money and build my business and things like that. So anyway, so I just kind of snuck it in there because I want you to see, like, I want this to be a no-brainer for you. Like, this is so obvious that this is a no-brainer that you just say, yes, I'm ready to take steps to make this happen. So if this is something that you're interested in and you want to sign up immediately enough to go ahead and get an early bird session with me next Tuesday, I think we're doing that at 2:30. Then you can go sign up here, maryaldrichcoaching.com/group. That's the Relationship Renovations website page. You can see, like, all of this is there. You can read more information about it if you like to look at that. If you have any further questions, you can message me in Facebook Messenger, and I'll be happy to talk to you there. And if you feel like you need to talk to me personally about it, we can sign up for, like, we can set up a time to talk on the phone. So it's starting January the 4th, but there's definitely bonuses that you'll want to take. Like, in the bonuses, you don't want to like wait and miss out on some of these awesome bonuses. Like, you'll still get holiday hacks if you sign up, but like, it's for the holidays. What are you doing? So anyway, this is what's available. Whether or not you take part of this, we are still doing tomorrow. We've still got a whole nother day of valuable information to go over. This stuff can change your life. This is just like, how bad do you want it? Do you want to, like, go all in, make it happen, change it today, start right now on shifting that trajectory towards the relationship that you want? And do you want solid support with you so that you can really meet the goal that you're after, that longing, that dream of, like, this is what I want that relationship to look like? All right. So thank you very much for letting me share what is available. And we still have all day tomorrow to talk. Oh my goodness. So tomorrow it's 7:00 in the evening. We're going to be going over the 5 biggest topics that we need to cover to eliminate distance with our families. Yeah, to eliminate distance with our families. So that's what we're doing, 7 p.m. tomorrow. We've got one more solid day. Your assignment for tonight from our stuff is just the questions that we talked about, these questions. Just pick one and one aspect of it to answer. What could you tell somebody about? Like, help them know you. Help, like, offer a part of you to somebody else. Let them know who you are. And if you feel super brave, ask them what their experience is. Like, ask them about one of the things. All right. And then the other thing I put on your assignment is go check out Relationship Renovations at maryaldrichcoaching.com/group and just see what you think. I think, last year we had a whole group of women go through this around their marriage. I've coached teens through this to help with getting along with their parents. I've had moms working on this with their kids. I have coached people with their young adult children, like the transitions between how to, like, they're home, but they don't want to be home because they want to be having a job and getting a life of their own. And how do we do that well and not, fracture apart while it feels like this is my house and my rules and those kind of things. Um, so I've basically taken this program and, like, this is the 2.0 version. It's like the extreme. There's so many things. And I already know, like, there's other things that I'm putting into this program this year that are not even on this board. So I've got like 5 other things on notes, like this is going in it and this is going in it, because listen, it's nothing in this life matters if it's not about loving God and the people he's made. That's my heart. That's the truth. So my desire is to pour into you. How can I do that for you so that you can do that for others? That's my heart. So anyway, check it out. I hope you have a good night. I'm going to go spend some time with my family, and lots of love to all of you. Thanks for hanging in there with me tonight. I know it was a little bit long, but I'll see you tomorrow. All right. Take care.